Welcome everyone. Today we'll talk about the basics of NGO in this particular video for you to understand what is an NGO and thereabout. So World Bank definitions for NGO. Allow me to quote. Private organization that pursue activities to relieve suffering, promote the interest of poor, protect the environment, provide basic social services, or undertake community development is what NGO is being termed as. Again, as per World Bank, any private organization that pursue activities relieving to relieve suffering, to promote interest of poor, to protect the environment, to provide basic social service, or to undertake community development. Essentially, upliftment of society is what we are talking around it. Dramatic growth in the beginning of the second half in 20th century. You remember just a few days back, 2023 earthquake in Turkey, where more than 35,000 people actually expired. So over the past several decades, NGOs have become a major player in all international relief front. Even in Turkey's earthquake, Turkey's Syria earthquake, there have been relief work coming from every corners of the world, absolutely every corners of the world. What are we looking into it? Development. We are causing for advocacy in advance for the concept of global civil society. Billions of dollars spent annually on relief, on sustainable development program as the case might be. Negative perceptions of the welfare state, development crisis, perceived global environmental crisis, discrediting of socialism, communication revolutions, and global economic growth is what we are looking forward to. Now, this is the reason for the absolute growth of non-governmental organization. Why? Because there's a negative perception of welfare states, as in too much of welfare means there's something is cooking below the carpet. Development crisis, perceived global environment crisis, discrediting of socialism. Absolutely, people are fed up with it. People are looking for transparency. People are looking for communication. People are looking uh, for a public mandate altogether. It is all about the age of social media, and that is what we are looking at. It. Global economic growth is another reason. Now, allow me to give you a brief bird's eye view. NGO plays a key role in humanitarian assistance and development. NGOs are nothing but rapid response element for humanitarian disasters all over the world. A few days back, the Turkey Syria earthquake is a glorifying example that has been set it around. Foot soldiers for international relief work. Military in peace operations will have to work with NGOs per se. So allow me to clarify the miscommunication communication of perception, or should I say the myths that is associated with NGO. NGOs are not government, absolutely not. Neither a provincial government or a central government, neither elected nor nominated. They are not government. And are they private businesses? Again, it's a myth. It is not a business. It's just a welfare arm of the business, perhaps. So it's neither a government nor a business. So, giving you a definition, let's last year what happened with Pakistan flooding. Flooding in Pakistan, where approximately 11,000 people were affected altogether. People actually expired out there in huge numbers, huge amount of property worth billions of dollars were washed away around it. A self-governing private non-for-profit organization that is geared towards improving the quality of life of disadvantaged people per se, perhaps. The term NGO is very broad, encompasses many different types of organization, advocacies, NGOs, operational advocacy NGOs where they want to promote the idea, absolutely sensitize people, educate people, give them viewpoints. That is known as advocacy NGOs. On the other hand, operational NGOs are executing some kind of relief work, executing some kind of development, some minor kind of development that might be going around it. So one is an advocacy NGOs, and the other one would be an operational NGOs per se. Amnesty International is another NGO that comes around it. Their primary purpose is to defend, promote specific causes, to influence policies and practices, let's say eradication of TB, tuberculosis, or sensitization regarding acquired human deficiency syndrome, AIDS, perhaps, or let's say promoting cataract operation in the old age people, in the eyes of the old age people. Now, what needs to be done? Now, these are primary purposes for a specific causes. Example are Amnesty. international, the Muslim Public Affair Counseling, as the case might be. Now, allow me to quote something around the operational NGO. The primary purpose is the field of work in humanitarian relief, design, development, and implementation of development related projects. That is what we are looking into it with a specific purpose in mind, and you are ensuring that you reach the goal. That would mean the success of that operation. Operational NGOs is are the one of the militaries must work with a cooperative relation with the public sector organization. Militaries must work. Why? Because militaries often operate at a border, difficult terrain where things has to be helped around. NGOs in humanitarian crisis, there are many public savings. For example, a few years back in Thailand, there was a lot number of miners were caved in. Miners were caved in actually, and people had to brought in technologies from different corners of the world to extradite. And at the end of the day, 7 or 11 people were actually saved. Now that is what provide life saving, or the intervention that we are talking about. Food distribution in terms of Pakistan flood last year, 2022, food were being allowed, or food were being dispatched from different corners of the world so that the people could avail certain food. Everything was washed away. Shelters, people provide shelters. A classic example would be the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and then people they started evacuating the respective countries of the war zone, and people flocked into the bordering countries where temporary shelters were provided. Water, sanitation facilities were extended. Medical care was provided to the refugees, perhaps. Now, operational NGOs organizational framework. Headquarters are in one country. ICRC is headquarters in one country. I'm giving you an example in the form of ICRC. Many autonomous national chapters, many centers and a national chapter. Let's say Save the Children is one of those bodies. Many national fundraising offices, but pool fund. Everybody raises funds, but then they pool in the fund at the central depository with a single worldwide field organization. Let's say World Vision is one of such organization, as the case might be. The other one would be autonomous national headquarters with field organization, autonomous national headquarters with field organization, and work assigned be a central international organization. A glorifying example is CARE, CARE. Similarly, for field work done through only indigenous or local NGOs, essentially by the son of the soil, daughters of the soil, indigenous people. Now, what are we looking at it? As in Oxfam, America is one of those glorifying example. So, NGO culture. Now, what is the culture that goes around it? Why work in a relief and development mode? Not only for money, definitely there is a money component in it, but the satisfaction that you get by helping another brother, another sister of yours, another human being of your kind, that is what is really an altruistic in nature, concern from other. And financially, definitely people do make money. The organizational cultures, first and foremost thing, you are helping downtrodden people, you are helping people coming out of poverty, you are helping society to stand on its own, both emotionally, financially, and economically. It's non-hierarchical, it's generally very liberal, intangible missions, not comfortable with the autocratic structure perhaps, and that is what we are looking around it. Typical Western NGO, young and idealistic, liberal arts degree, believes in sustainable development, little formal operational doctrine, few formal training courses, significant organizational competition, increased security concern, as the case might be. How do we come across? These are typical Western NGOs. People with a huge amount of money, and they want to be living some kind of idealistic life. Liberal arts degree, believes in sustainable development, little or formal operational doctrine, absolutely few formal training courses, and so on and so forth. Then comes the voluntary code of conduct for relief organization, or essentially non-governmental organization. This is humanitarian imperative comes first. Aid is given regardless of the race, creed, or nationality on the basis of the need alone. Aid will not be used to further a particular political or religious standpoint. Absolutely not. It's a gender neutral, it's a religious neutral, it's a culture neutral aid that needs to be taken. We shall endeavor not to act as an instrument of government for foreign policies and respect the cultures and customs then and there. The voluntary code of conduct to be presented is building a disaster response on local capacity, empowering the local people, empowering the indigenous people, involve program beneficiaries in the management of relief aid, reduce further vulnerabilities, as well as meeting basic requirements. NGOs accountable both to the beneficiaries and the contributories. Disaster victims are dignified humans, absolutely not hopeless, objective as the case might be. Governing principles. What are the governing principles? If you look into it, this is what the picture shows around where the children have been provided some kind of clothing and things like that. Governing principles are on humanity, on impartiality, on neutrality. Did I say it's a gender neutral, it's a religious neutral, it's a cultural neutral, it's race neutral strategies, principles that needs to be done. It is based on the sense of brotherhood. It's based on the sense of humanity. It is not being partial to anything. United Nations and NGO. Let's say Article 63 and 64, even Article 71 states about United Nations and NGO. How does it function and how does the international laws apply on them? United Nations General Assembly Resolution 43 oblique 131 is an importance of NGOs without which United Nations said execution of difficult work, relief work in difficult terrain, it becomes very impossible. States to facilitate the work of an NGO, states to support the NGO, cooperate with humanitarian assistance organizations set up with the United Nations, all stated in chapter number 7 of the Security Council. Authority to authorize NGOs and humanitarian relief as the case might be. Risk to NGOs, allow me to give you the certain risks, such certain pitfalls that is associated with NGOs and humanitarian work. Aid worker, first and foremost, is a dangerous work environment. Probably the humanitarian work, let's say the Red Cross works in at the time of a war, probably where you are being shelled around, you have been gunned around, bullets are firing helter skelter. Isn't it a dangerous environment to work around it? These are your risks. 1994 safety conventions, probably they would be saying about people who are not associated with the work should be spared, but essentially that is very hard to practice good in theories. Safety needs, acceptance, protection, deterrence, safety aids, information. Probably if you can inform her prior to the fact that you are going to a certain places, planning, training, coordination, psychological assessment or assistant. Security Council responsibility as the case might go. Where to go, when to go, as in what happens. Now, if these are the pitfalls or negativities associated with an NGO, what are the advantages? Plentiful. Strong grassroots links. You have a better understanding of the way of life that the people love to live and why the reason for living a certain way of life. Field based development expertise. Ability to innovate and adapt. Process oriented approach to development. Participatory methods and tools. Long term commitment and emphasis on sustainability. Cost effectiveness. This is what we are trying to look around here. Cost effectiveness. How well do we make money and what is the value for the money that we are looking into it? How much does the last dollar, what mileage does the last dollar can bring it up? That is what we are looking as far as a long-term commitment and emphasis on sustainability. The criticism, plentiful, have lost their independence, or is just another spooky arm of the government, if we may say, proxy arm of the government, if I may say. These are what has been associated with NGOs, too close to the corporate world, probably either in the government or in the corporate world, or basically they are front for a scam on funds, probably, or laundering of money, if you may say so. Fundraising is a primary concern. Again, probably people associated with the NGO is only interested in raising funds, probably not so good at executing those funds to be work on a relief work. Excessive living standard in the midst of poverty. If you have seen certain NGOs, people, executive and NGOs are living life on a king size basis when compared to the work that they are supposed to do, or among the people who are actually poverty driven, things are in very contrast. So these are what the essential criticism of NGOs is all about it. Now, to summarize, many participants in peace operation, definitely yes. NGOs are another phase for humanitarian assistance, definitely yes. You need to understand the players, coordination mechanism, pursue unity effects by emphasizing cooperation, coordination, and consensus is the bottom line for any NGOs. Again, I repeat, cooperation, coordination, and consensus. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the end. I hope you have understood the basics of NGO, why it is there, what are the pitfalls, what are the advantages, what are the criticism, how does it help, what is the essence of having an NGO in the first place, what are the myths associated with NGOs, so on and so forth. Thank you very much.